Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of the Jerry Millen Forum. And today's question that we're going to be answering is a question that came from an interview that Jerry Millen did a couple of weeks back in his Asia trip, where he said that the Nets were going to be making the playoffs this season, and that he didn't care what anybody else thought. When Jerry Millen said that, a lot of people started making fun of his statement, especially in the media, because the Brooklyn Nets just had the worst record in the NBA last season. So to make such a bold statement that they're going to be making the playoffs this season and that he didn't care what anybody else thought, it's a very bold statement. I'm not surprised that people were making fun of him. I mean, that's natural because nobody's expecting the Nets to do anything this season, especially after what happened last season. So to answer this question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into history again. I mean, we're going to be looking at some situations that might be a little bit similar to what's going on with the Nets, and we're going to look at what happened. And then I'm going to be answering this question. I'm not gonna answer it yet. I'm going to be talking about some situations that I think that are very interesting, and I think that they're going to be helping me answer this question for you guys. So we're going to go back to 2012 with the New York Knicks. At some point, the New York Knicks had an 8-win and 15-loss record. They have lost 13 out of 15 games at that point. And a lot of people were losing hope on the Knicks. A lot of people were saying that the Knicks were not going to be able to make the playoffs. Until some kid named Jerry Millen came into a game against the Nets and just destroyed them. And became the starting point guard for the Knicks and went on a 7-win streak to put the Knicks back on a 500 winning percentage. Back on track to making the playoffs. And thanks to Jerry Millen, the Knicks, even though it was an impossible situation with a kid that nobody knew who he was, it became possible when the Knicks made the playoffs that same season. The year after that, Jerry Millen signed an offer sheet with the Houston Rockets, and the Knicks didn't match that offer, even though they said they would, but they didn't. So Lynn became a Rocket. Now the Rockets had 3 years without making the playoffs. And that season, they were on rebuilding mode. They got rid of pretty much every single major player that they had. They had Dragic, they had Kyle Lowry, they had Luis Scola. They got rid of every single one of them. And they were in rebuilding mode with the youngest team in the league at that moment. And nobody was expecting anything from them. I mean, their team was just pretty much a bunch of young kids that they didn't have anything to lose, but in reality, they were not well known. I mean, really, I don't think anybody was expecting the Rockets to make the playoffs, especially knowing that they were the youngest team in the league at that point. But guess what? They did. Thanks to James Harden and Jerry Millen, the Houston Rockets made the playoffs that year, becoming one of the youngest teams to ever make the playoff. And again, nobody was expecting that. They made the playoffs a year after that too. Then Jerry Millen got traded to the Lakers, and we're not going to be talking about the Lakers. Thank you, Byron Scott. We're gonna skip that like it never happened. The year after with that, Jerry Millen signed with the Charlotte Hornets, and the Hornets, they had only been in the playoffs 2 out of the last 13 years. Their 2014-2015 record was 33 wins and 49 losses, which is not very good. The Hornets have always been a mediocre team. They barely ever made the playoffs for the last 15 years. So there's not a lot to be expected there, but they were able to sign Jerry Millen to be the sixth man and the backup point guard Kemba Walker, and they also signed Nicholas Batum that year. And even though not a lot of people were expecting anything from the Hornets, thanks to Jerry Millen, they were able to win 48 games and only lose 34 and make the playoffs tied with the 5th place. That was their best record. Their best season record in 15 years. Again, a situation where nobody was expecting anything, and again, they make the playoffs, and a big thanks to that is Jerry Millen. Now, Jerry Millen, the season after that, he signed with the Brooklyn Nets, which was last season, and obviously we know that the Nets didn't make the playoffs last season, and they were the worst team in the league. Now, with all that being said, these are examples of impossible playoff runs that actually became possible and actually happened. And here's the thing. If we look back at last year, we got to remember that the Nets didn't have a good season. That is true. But we got to remember that Jeremy Lin was injured for pretty much half of the season. So if we just look back when Jeremy Lin came back last year and we look at the records from March and April, not including the last game because really that doesn't count, the Nets record was actually a pretty decent 11-12, almost a 500 winning percentage. That's not bad. That puts you pretty much in the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. If we look at that and we say, well, Jeremy Lin played all those games, he was back, and the Nets were playing pretty good basketball actually, and they went 11-12. And now we're saying that the Nets have added D'Angelo Russell, they have added Crave, they have added Moskov, and the only player that they lost, and I'm almost forgetting Carroll. And the only player that they lost was Brook Lopez, which obviously he was a big part of the team last year. He's a great NBA player. But still, the Nets this year have a lot more talent than they did last year. And not just that, but the guys that were there last year, they become a lot better. And that's mainly thanks to having one of the best, if not the best, player development coach in Kenny Atkinson. So if we look at all those things and we say, well, 11-12, they have a much better team this year. You know, if we look at their pace last year, their three-point shooting and all these things, and we consider all that and the players that they have added, how the league is and how the Eastern Conference is this year, I have to believe that the Nets can be a 500 team this year and maybe a little bit over that. So based on that, the Nets have a very good chance of making the playoffs. I mean, if I look at this information and look at history and look at what happened with the Knicks, what happened with the Rockets, what happened with the Hornets, and look at what the Nets did last season in March and April, and look at what they did this offseason, adding so many pieces, adding D'Angelo Russell, adding Crave, adding Carroll, adding Moskov, adding all these players, the guys that were there last year, they still here, they're getting a lot better. I think that they have a good chance. And my answer to the question of will the Nets make this year's playoffs has to be a yes, as long as there's no major injuries. If there's any major injury to one of the main players in the Nets roster, then their chances diminish by a lot. But I think that the Nets are going to be surprising everybody this season because they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs. And that's it for today's episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Please leave your comments below. Please like the video. You can share it. Subscribe to my channel. I'm going to keep on making more content, especially once the preseason, the season starts and all that stuff, which I'm super excited and I cannot wait. But yeah, that's today's episode. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week. And I'll see you next time.